Howdy folks, welcome back. A couple weeks ago we had a massive snowstorm here, lasted a couple of days, lots of snow, lots of wind, and I did something stupid. I broke this and now I need to fix it. So coming up, I'm going to show you what we got to do and how we're going to fix it. Let's go. Alright folks, so hopefully you can see I bent that piece of tube right there. This is my sort of my homemade quick attach for my bucket, my forks and whatever. Sort of a homemade affair. I seen it on something else and I made it, so I made it myself. But now that this is bent, this is where my attachments hang. There's sort of an angled piece that hangs over this, and it's a relatively tight fit. So now that I bent that, it's not going to fit. And I could have used the bucket the other day, but I can't get it on there because that's bent now. Now we're going to need to straighten that. So we've got a couple of options how we could straighten that. I could throw the rosebud on my torch and heat that right up and bash it back. It's been my experience that with hollow structure, heating it up, you can get it bent back, but it'll kind of be wonky and it'll cave in sometimes. So I'm not going to do it that way. I have a press over here. We can put it in the press and jack down on it and straighten it. I'm not sure whether it'll fit in my press or not, but first things first, I'm going to get it off of here and we'll see if it'll fit in the press. Okay. I don't think that's going to fall. Okay. Guess I could lower that down. Not going to come out that way, so I'll beat to hell. Okay. Okay folks, so you may be wondering, how did a snowstorm cause me to bend this? So, remember I said I did something stupid? I had a massive drift out on the driveway, and my driveway has fairly good slope to it. And I made it through one drift and thought, I'm just going to keep giving her and try and make it through the next one. Well, the next one was probably 15 feet long. And I buried my pickup in this drift. I couldn't even see the headlights. As a matter of fact, I had to crawl out the window to get out of the truck. It was that buried in the snow. Okay, so I come get the tractor. This is, now mind you, this is 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm just getting home. The wind is howling, you can't see anything, it's cold as hell. I just want to get this truck out of the snow so it doesn't freeze solid in there, and then I'll deal with the snow later. So I go to the bottom side of the slope thinking that pulling it downhill would be easier, and I wrapped the chain around here. And it did not want to move. It was stuck in there, like, it was stuck bad. I had to yank on it a bunch of times. I finally did get it out. So in yanking, that's how I bent that. I didn't notice it right away, of course, but Um, Now I know you're probably thinking, well, why would you put it on there? That's stupid. What were you thinking? Come on. Everybody does stupid shit once in a while, and I'm no different. Like I said, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I just wanted to go to bed. It was dark, cold, windy. I couldn't see anything. So I did something dumb. Now I gotta fix it. So, I am hoping we'll make it a lot easier if it will fit in here. We're gonna give it a try. It's heavy. It's not super heavy. I can muscle it, but that is close. Really close. So that might work. Ooh. We might just be able to make that work. Okay, it just fits. I think we can make that work. It's not right in the center, but I think if I use this parallel block, that'll probably work. And that's the easier option than the other one I was thinking of that I thought I was going to end up having to do. I think this will go. I think this will go. Well, we're going to give it a shot anyway and see what happens. Now, need to find a handle. Okay. All right, let's go for it. See what happens here. I'm sure we can make it work. Okay, that's gonna, I think that'll do it. Now, sometimes it can be hard to tell, depending on the type of material you're bending, you're gonna have to go a little bit past parallel, because it's gonna spring back slightly. But just go little bits at a time is what I do. It's better to have to go again than it is to have to flip it over and go back if you went too far. But I'm very pleased that it fits in here. I thought we were going to have to do it a different way. Now, this doesn't have to be, exactly flat. There is a little clearance in there where my angled piece on my bucket goes over. It doesn't have to be, it's not precision, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be a little straighter than what it was. And I think we're damn close here. Okay, let's let the pressure off it and see what it looks like. It didn't spring back a whole lot. I think that might be all right. I think that'll probably work. Like I said, it does not have to be perfectly straight, it just has to be relatively straight. It did cave that in a little, which is somewhat to be expected, I guess. Now, I think what I'll do is use this thing, lower this down, it's a little bit heavy. A little bit heavy for working the weight over my head there. Okay. Stand it up and see. Oh yeah, that'll work fine. That'll work fine. See? Now you look down it. I mean, it's not perfectly straight, but it's a lot straighter than it was, and that'll work for me. We can deal with that. You know, you might be saying to yourself, well, Luke, that's fine for you because you have a press, but I don't have a press, so how am I going to fix that myself? All right. Well, most people have a jack. That jack was like $30. It's a Chinese shitty jack, but it does the trick. So what you can do is get yourself what I call a strong back. So something like that, maybe, right? And then what you would do is, whoops, weld another piece on. Now, of course, the material that you're using as your strong back needs to be stronger than what you're trying to bend, of course, right? So, you know, dig through the scrap pile, find whatever you gotta find. What I thought I was gonna have to do was take some pieces, weld a piece here, weld a piece there, build yourself a bridge. So of course you'd have another one over there. Weld it fairly solid. Only solid enough that you need to, because you're going to have to cut it off after. And then use your jack. Okay? Now I've had to do that many times in something much larger than this, where you can't take it off and get it into a press. You build something like this. They could have even built it just leaving it right on the tractor. They could have just built that right there and used the jack to do it. So you need very little tools. You could even, I don't know how well it would work, but you could even use a chain. I've seen guys do that. I don't know how well it would work with that jack, but wrap the chain around here, throw it over there, wrap it around there, and use the chain. Now your chain's going to bite in, of course, and make marks. If that matters to you, then you can't do it that way. I have seen guys do it like that also. You want to make sure you got a good heavy chain, of course. But so there's a couple of options. You can use heat. As I said, I prefer not to use heat on something hollow, because it tends to just cave in and deform, and it'll go wonky on you. And you know, maybe I'm not as good at it as some guys are, but I prefer to do it cold if I can. I bent it cold so I can straighten it cold if I just get a little creative. So I fixed that in very short order, and I'll be back in business in no time, and it didn't cost me a cent. There you have it, folks. If you can just be a little creative, you can fix things yourself. You don't need to take this off and take it to a shop and have somebody else fix it for you. Not only is it going to cost you a bunch of money, but you're at the mercy of that shop. You may have to wait. It may sit in the corner for a week. I don't know about you, but I don't have a week. I need that fixed right now. So just be a little creative, and you'd be surprised what you can fix on your own. Okay, folks, good news. The bucket fits. No problemo. So you see the angled piece that hooks over there. And then those little slotted things poke through the front. And then what I do is just throw a wedge in there with a little cotter pin. And it works well. As you use it, that wedge goes in tighter and tighter and tighter. Usually you got to knock it out with a hammer when you go to take it off. Of course, I've lost the wedge for the other side, so I'm going to have to make another one. But Anyway, that's how that works. It goes through the end, and I welded it in there. I made that bucket myself. Now this setup was on this sort of homemade quick attach was, my dad had it on a loader tractor he had, and I think it was made, Mennonites made it, I think. It was like that when he bought it, but we found it actually quite easy to use. So rather than get real complicated and do it like, you know, skid steer style or John Deere style or whatever you want to call it, I just did it right like this. Real quick and dirty. And you pull the wedges out, and then you just drop the bucket on the ground and curl it, and it pulls out. And that's it. So you can see why when that piece of tube was bent, that would not have worked. If I'd have been lucky enough to get it on, it never would have came off again. Anyhow, I just thought I'd quickly show you how that works on this, and that's why I have it that way. You might be thinking, why don't you have the bucket on in the winter anyway? And the reason is I don't have enough room. So I leave the bucket off because I need the room. I don't have the length, right? So I leave the bucket off so I can get the tractor in, and I'll just throw the bucket on if I need it for something. And now that I have it working again, I'm probably not going to need it. Okay, folks, we're going to leave this one here. We're back in business now. We got that fixed. So it just goes to show you, if you have something like this happen to you, just stop and think about it. Be creative, and you should be able to fix it on your own with very minimal tools. That's all I got for now. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.